Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, you're the British Museum. Why have you got modern stuff like this in your collection? What's going on? You've got some attitude. Hello there, my name's Henry Flynn, and I'm one of the curators here in the Department of Coins and Medals at the British Museum. And welcome to my corner. Right then, check these out. What I've got here are two objects which might be a bit surprising to you. Maybe objects that you think are a bit unusual, things that you might normally expect to find here in the British Museum. These are actually two prop banknotes from an episode of the TV series Doctor Who. They were from the 2006 Christmas special, which was called The Runaway Bride, and the episode in question required a large number of banknotes to billow out of a cash machine in large numbers. We actually have this example of the banknote on display in the Money Gallery here at the British Museum, and there's a little video screen next to it which has the scene in question on a sort of 30-second loop. Just to explain the context of this, in the 2006 Christmas special, TV's Doctor Who, the Doctor if you prefer, he has just met his new friend Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate. She's been mysteriously teleported from her wedding to the Doctor's TARDIS. She doesn't know why, he doesn't know either. He's trying to get her to her wedding on time. Gets it wrong, of course, the TARDIS is playing up, so they get to this sort of London street. Catherine Tate's character has pretty much lost patience with Doctor Who by this point. She goes off to sort of do her own thing. He, trying to be helpful, goes over to a cash point, zaps the cash machine, and takes some money, basically, for her taxi. By which point, she's taken matters into her own hands. She's hailed a cab, she's borrowed some money off a kind member of the public, a passerby on the street, and she's got into the cab. But what she hasn't noticed, which the Doctor clocks quite quickly, is that the taxi is being driven by a robot Santa. Now, this is the kind of thing that happens to me all the time at Christmas. I'm sure it does to you as well. And realising that she's in danger, he needs to catch up with her. So he turns around, but sees that there's another group of robot Santas, obviously, sort of creeping up on him in the street. So needing to create a distraction quite quickly, this is what he does. He zaps the sonic screwdriver at the cash point again, causing a huge amount of banknotes to billow out into the street. And of course, members of the public doing what they most likely probably would do in that situation, just start grabbing them. The robots are distracted, and the Doctor is able to make his escape and then go and help his friend. For copyright reasons, as you can imagine, it would be so prohibitively expensive to feature that clip in this video, which is just not something that we could even consider, really. You can come see it for free. It's on display in the Money Gallery, if you want to come see that. You might already be familiar with the episode. But although it would have been really nice to feature it, it's just, you know, not practical, but it's a shame. Tell you what, come with me.
Excuse me, I'm begging you, I'm getting married, I really am, and I'm late, and I just need to borrow a tenner, and I'll pay you back, I promise, and it's Christmas. Taxi! Thanks for nothing, spaceman! I'll see you in court! Donna!
Right then, where were we? I mean, they're interesting. They're interesting. They tell two interesting stories, really. They're interesting from the narrative point of view, their use in the actual episode. It reveals interesting things about the character of the Doctor. The Doctor is portrayed as someone who is very moral, always takes the moral high ground, is always in the right. Occasionally, the scriptwriters try to put elements of darkness into the Doctor's character, but for the most part, she, of course, for the most part, the character is a bit of a goody-goody. So what's interesting in this episode is he basically robs a bank without a second thought, doesn't care. I mean, he sees that he's taking the high ground, I guess. He sees that he's doing the right thing by helping his friend. Money is not of interest to him. But by zapping the sonic screwdriver at the cash machine and stealing a huge amount of money, that's a crime from our point of view. But to him, he's not bothered. So it reveals an interesting lack of sort of consideration for our way of life, I guess. What's really interesting about these particular objects is the story behind their creation. The Bank of England, they're a little bit funny about the recreation of banknotes in TV and film productions, as you can understand. That's counterfeiting, which is illegal. However, that presented the Doctor Who production team with a little bit of a problem. They needed to have a huge amount of money blowing around in the air for the hired extras to grab at. You can't do that with real money for obvious reasons. All you can do in that situation is recreate, make your own, copies. The Bank of England guidelines for this sort of thing are quite strict, and they state that you can make replica banknotes, but one side of them has to be blank, so it's absolutely clear that the replica is indeed a replica, could never be confused for the real thing. But with so many needed to be shown on screen in an uncoordinated, sort of chaotic scene where they're billowing around in the air, it would be very clear to the public, the viewing public, that they were fake. So that was also not an option for the Doctor Who production team. And what they chose to do was make their own, which I think is great. It's a really nice thing to do. Now, I'm going to glove up. These are modern objects, they're TV film props, but we still treat them with the same care and respect as we would an ancient coin. Anything else that we've got in our collection is treated with the same respect once it becomes an object. I know you all liked my sinister blue gloves last time, so I'm up in the ante by wearing some black ones today. This is good TV, isn't it? Right, there we go. What's really nice about these objects, the thing that I really like about them, is it's just so clear that they were a labour of love on behalf of the art department at BBC Wales who made them. They got their concept artist, Peter McKinstry, to design Doctor Who banknotes. They didn't have to do that. That's the great thing about it. I think you could have easily, it doesn't need to look like this. They could have done something much more simple, something that would have taken a lot less time to do. I mean, you can barely see them on screen. They appear for such a split second. You would never see all these little extra details, these little extra Easter eggs for you to enjoy. So it's worth me, I think, explaining them to you, going through them with you a little bit. So first and foremost, obviously, instead of a portrait of the Queen here, we've got a portrait of David Tennant. Apparently these took about a day to produce, and the bulk of the time was taken by Peter McKinstry on drawing the portraits. Nice little likeness there of David Tennant, who of course plays the Doctor in this episode. It's got DT there, David Tennant, for him. Instead of a hologram, little image of the TARDIS there, the little police box, which is a nice touch. It says London Credit Bank at the top there. The London Credit Bank is a fictional bank that was created for the programme. Other nice little details to mention are the copyrighted BBC Wales logo at the bottom there. And the designer's name, Peter McKinstry, which quite nicely, he's there credited as being the chief numpty, so it's a nice little touch to add. And the other thing to mention, I think, which again you would never see this on screen, even if you pause it and zoomed in, it'd be very, very difficult to see. There's this little quotation here. What the quotation says is, "No second chances, I'm that sort of man." That's, as I'm sure you know, I don't need to tell you these things, that's a direct reference to David Tennant's very first episode, which was also a Christmas special, the Christmas special in 2005. The other thing to sort of note, which again is a reference to that episode that he debuted in, is Ten Satsumas here. So they're all very specific to his Doctor. And like I say, just nice to have those extra elements added in there. They also produced a £20 note, and for the 20, they chose to depict the producer of the show at the time, Phil Collinson. Here he is. So again, Peter McKinstry has spent a bit of time doing a portrait of Phil Collinson there. It's largely similar in design and style to the £10 note, I should expect, and it's got the same sort of hidden Easter eggs for you to look at. So if you've got one up close and you're looking at it, you can see all these extra little details. And if you don't know, it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it. But if you do know, if you're in the know, there's lots of nice little details for you there to pick up on. You've got the London Credit Bank referenced again. But the other thing distinguishes this one from the David Tennant one, which is there specifically for Phil Collinson, I believe, is the little quotation. There's no point being grown up if you can't be a little childish sometimes. I should misquote, but we'll let that slide. But this is actually from Tom Baker's debut story, which is called Robot from 1974. It's a line of dialogue that Tom Baker delivers as the Doctor at the end of that story. Phil Collinson was growing up in the 70s, so John Pertwee and Tom Baker would have been his doctors. So it's a nice little reference, probably, I'm guessing, to Phil Collinson's era of the show. Sadly though, for Phil Collinson, we just decided that in terms of display, that David Tennant was a little bit more recognisable to the public, so that's why he's on display, and this one isn't. Sorry, Phil. Now, these are, of course, based on the older banknotes that we used to have in the UK. They've since been replaced, the paper money that we used to have has been replaced by polymer notes, so if the production team was doing something similar today, they'd have to start from scratch and do something completely different. These are based on the old paper notes, but the paper itself is very smooth and shiny. It's even to the touch, even through my gloves, through my sinister black latex gloves, it's clear that this is not real money. And just to demonstrate that, you can see this is the obverse, if you want to call it that, if you want to get technical. The reverse is identical. Now, if you come into the British Museum and come to the Money Gallery and have a look at this banknote on display, do please have a look at the objects it's displayed with. It's displayed beneath a prop banknote from the movie GoldenEye, the James Bond movie GoldenEye from 1995. Compare the two. That's a prop banknote used for exact same purposes. Money that needs to be apparently real on screen, but in reality is fake. If you look at it, you think, yeah, clearly fake. It's very functional. It's a sort of blank bit of paper with some green elements on. Very basic. Nowhere near to the level of this detail. So it just shows you the level of love and care and attention that the people who make that show really put into it, which I think is quite nice. So there we are, that's it from me. Thank you all very much indeed for watching. If you're interested to learn about more Curator's Corners, talking about a variety of different subjects that sadly don't refer to Doctor Who, but never mind, you might find them interesting anyway. Who am I to judge? I'm joking. They are all available to my left here, given by my many wonderful colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe to the British Museum YouTube channel, and don't forget